good morning, or good evening, or good afternoon. The only real thing that I have to say in this introduction is a reminder. And it's a reminder that context is indeed everything. Talking about context, I have a sticky note here about Friday's lesson, Chapter 5, Section 5, on Alexander the Great and the Hellenistic civilization. Hellenistic period lasted from the death of Alexander the Great to the emergence of the Roman Empire, which is 323 to 31 BC. Now, based off the scope in the map in the textbook, the Hellenistic civilization had influence on Greece, modern-day Turkey, Egypt, Babylonia, all the way to the edge of India. And some seeds that it sowed, the Hellenistic civilization that is Stoicism as a concept, which has been influential on the Roman Empire forward. Method of seeing the world without the emotions taking control. Pythagorean theorem, he came from the Hellenistic civilization. Archimedes and Erasthenes, who made an accurate circumference of the world estimation. And this is all between 323 BC and 31 BC. So that's a little bit of context on where we left off. Today we're on Chapter 5 review. Oh, finished the chapter. Look at us. Let's see. What's there to talk about in the chapter review? Because I'm realizing I'm doing the sticky notes before, the start of a new lesson. So what's the point of reviewing the chapter? I'm reviewing each section day by day. When I read the sticky notes, maybe I should just read the sticky notes all now so that I can kind of remember for myself. Because this is a ambient classroom for the viewer to learn. But this is also a context building practice for me, John Michael Monroy, founder and CEO of Context is Everything Media Network. And so here in Ancient Greece, Chapter 5, the first section was Early People of the Aegean. Aegean being the water in the Mediterranean Sea to the east of Greece, I believe. Pretty sure about that. Iliad, Homer, the Odyssey, the islands, Milos, Delphi, the Oracle of Delphi, Solon, is a archon, which is a political office in ancient Greece. He was good to the people. He freed slaves and he gave more power to citizens while also granting citizenship to foreigners. They have the Council of 500 in Athens, and this is made up of citizens, so I picture a big city hall type situation where they make decisions together. All citizens participate and vote and in topic subject matter. The Athenian democracy, Solon, good leader, freed slaves, made it more accessible to become a citizen. Tyrants, the definition as stated in this book, people who gain power by force. I find that to be an interesting definition of the word tyrant, and maybe that's always been the definition of the word tyrant, but I didn't know it specifically before, so I wrote it down here. People who gain power by force. Another definition, aristocracy. Now, the aristocracy is ruled by a land-holding elite. And those are some definitions from that section there. And then we move on. Victory and defeat in the Greek world. Victory and defeat in the Greek world. The golden age of Pericles, the leader who led from 460 BC to 429 BC. He led the Athenians to victory in the Persian War. He was not the leader the whole time, but he was the leader at the end when they won. They used battering rams under their boats to sink the ships of the Persians, which is a very interesting concept. But that's only after the Persians faced the Spartans in what we would call the movie 300, which is based off of the story of when the Persians encroached upon Greece in the Persian War and faced the Spartans, who depleted their army but lost. Now the Spartans played a key role because they depleted the army. Athens finished the job. This took a long time. That war lasted from 492 BC to 449 BC. That's the Persian War. Persians against Greeks. Spartans and Athenians fight together. Shortly after the victory of the Greeks against the Persians, Sparta fought Athens. The Peloponnesian League, which is Sparta, fought the Delian League, which is Athens. Now, what do those two words mean, those leagues? I'm not sure. But they are specific to Delian, Athens. Peloponnesian, Sparta. The Peloponnesian War from 431 to 404 BC was a fight between the Spartans and the Athenians, just shortly after the Persian War, and the Spartans won. The Spartans also employed help from their recent rivals, their very recent rivals, the Persians. Persians helped the Spartans defeat the Athenians. In that battle, in that war, Athens, led by Pericles, Golden Age of Pericles, for the first 2 years, he said, you know what, everybody in those suburbs right outside the city walls, come on in, we have to protect you. The problem is, those city walls kept everyone together, too tight. They didn't have enough space for all of those folks, so plagues and all that ran rampant, and Pericles himself died from one of those plagues. So it kind of depleted them further. We alone regard a man who takes no interest in public affairs as useless. This is a quote from Pericles. He thinks that people should be involved in public affairs if they have a say, which he's calling people who do not take interest in public affairs useless, is what Pericles is saying there. Now, on to the next section, which is talking about Greek philosophy and all that. Now, there's a great comment below on the previous video. I believe it was Vinny Da Vinci. I appreciate your comment and your engagement. And you talked about pre-Socratic, you mentioned pre-Socratic philosophers and post-Socratic philosophers. I only took note of the post-Socratic philosophers, which I have here on this sticky note. But check the comments and give a thumbs up to a great comment for making that distinction, pre-Socratic, post-Socratic. So Socrates, really the founder of the modern understanding of Greek philosophy, he created the Socratic method. This man sat in the city square outside and he talked. He asked people questions. And that's the Socratic method. The Socratic method is talking and figuring things out by way of discussion, which is, just an external expression of the internal mind. And so the revelation of the internal mind by speech kind of makes thoughts more real. Socrates employed that strategy with people. He didn't write anything down. So his legacy after his ostracization, when he was ostracized from Greek society for corrupting the youth, which he might have done. I don't know. I wasn't there. Corrupting the youth. Ostracization. Either way, that word, what it means is in Greek society, in Athenian society, if you're ostracized, you have to leave the city walls for 10 years. Now, Socrates was 70 years old when he was ostracized for corrupting the youth. He said, no ostracization for me. He said, I'll take the hemlock, which is poison, and death penalty. So he did that. Now again, he didn't write anything down. So Plato, his successor, who learned from him, did write things down in a book called The Republic, which was his ideal society and the breakdown. He also made a school called The Academy. Now, the Republic ideal state has 3 classes of citizens. Citizens are broken into 3 classes: workers, soldiers, and philosophers. The leader would be the utmost of the philosophers, called the Philosopher King. So this would be a very well-read person who's trusted by the philosophers in society, yada, yada, yada. The Republic in a nutshell. I'm sure there's a lot more useful information just than that, but this is a sticky note about the section. And after Plato, he had a successor as well. His successor, Aristotle, built on the previous ideas from Socrates to Plato to Aristotle. And Aristotle said, let's focus on a moderate course of action between the extremes. This is called, as he says, the golden mean. Mean meaning average. Alexander the Great in the Hellenistic era. That's what I talked about before. Emergence of Roman Empire. Alexander the Great to the emergence of the Roman Empire. Stoicism, all that. Stoicism does build off of, I'm sure, Greek philosophy. It's very rational based. Stoicism is, I guess it uses reason to supersede emotion in the human mind so as to keep people at a more placid, temperate level, being able to be sharp on their mind rather than corrupted by emotional thought, which generally is more irrational than rational. And that's not a criticism of emotions, but that is my understanding of Stoicism, which is superseding emotions so as to think more clearly about things rather than being whipped up in emotions. That's right. So that's a review, really. The next section is Ancient Rome and the Rise of Christianity. And so you know what? I can stop here. I think I can stop here. I think it makes sense. It was a review day. So talk quietly among yourselves. Don't pack up yet in case the principal comes by. I just want to make it look like we're still busy. So keep your books open, and you can talk quietly among yourselves, and I'll get some grading done. All right. Have a good day. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Remember, context is everything. And what a rip-off that game was last night. Terrible call. Terrible call. Disgusting, really.